Howdy, lieutenants and economists.
The most volatile, evil, disgusting things on the planet, humans. If you have a video request, you can always go to assholeconsulting.com.
Yeah, I am gonna charge you, kids. And that is the importance of not fucking up.
You are such an asshole!
Hey everybody, the old captain. Barry writes, and I knew this was going to happen because, what was it? Who was the client? I can't mention his name. He's a German guy, or has a German name. And he sent me a couple of requests about economics. So that's why we had the, what are negative interest rates, and I forget the other one. And now this opened up the floodgates, and now you guys want me to do actual thinking and sitting down and economic research. And Barry writes, hey brother, since you're on a roll with your recent videos discussing economic and monetary theory, please help us fellow lieutenants understand the key differences between Keynesianism and Austrian economics and why Keynesianism has failed. Name your price, thanks. And so I'm like, you would do that to me, you bastard, and you're probably going to pay, and he did pay for this video. And I'm going to charge more because it's not that hard. I like doing economics, but I'm just being a whiny cunt. That's basically what it boils down to. I'm just whining because I actually had to, I knew, but it's to put it into a digestible format. So I did my work yesterday, and I also woke up today. I'm like, let's bang this out of the way. So Barry, thanks a lot. I put it together here, and I took notes, and you all know I'm serious when I take notes, so I can organize it. All right, let's do the first thing, and that is John Maynard Keynes, the founder of Keynesianism, British dude. His followers or disciples, if you want to call it that, the Keynesians, those type of economists, which are your mainstream economists today, they have deviated a lot from what John Maynard Keynes wrote and claimed and believed. So when you hear Keynesianism or a Keynesian, don't assume that with John Maynard Keynes. John is dead. But he would never advocate half the shit that's going on right now with the Federal Reserve and Central Banking, Bank of England. So you can't say, who's this Keynes fucker? Oh, that bastard. Hate Marx. Marx came up with a bad plot. Hate Engels, but don't hate John Maynard Keynes because he's like, well, yeah, we could do this, but you should scale it back a little bit. So I'm not going to go into that much boring detail. But the disclaimer is that if you shouldn't hate the man that came up with these theories, because his theories aren't really actually being purported by mainstream economists. So that's one thing about Keynes. Don't associate him with Keynesianism. So, ironically, it's like I would come up with my own economic theory and it'd be Claryism, and they say, "Oh, that fucker Clary." It's like, dude, I have nothing to do with Claryism. It's just named after me. So, all right, we can delve into very anal retentive detail about the economic differences between Keynesian theory and Austrian economic theory. But it really boils down to one thing, and from that, different policy differences and stances take hold in the two different economic theories. And the key fundamental difference is that Keynesians believe in the right to intervene. They're going to help. They're from the government and they're going to help. And they believe that government, both in terms of two tools, monetary and fiscal policy, can go and help the economy grow. Now, a lot of that is altruistic and noble and well-intended. But again, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. But then also, this lends Keynesianism to be abused by political powers and political forces, because the government, meaning my easy cushy government job as a senator or a congressman where I don't really work a fucking job, we could go and do good things without me having to learn the stems and the maths, right? So you'll see a huge bias on the left, you'll see a huge bias in politicians, right or left, to be Keynesians, because it gives them the economic right or theory or philosophy or excuse to go and do things. Whether or not they actually succeed, black community, Detroit, is another matter, but that's one of the drawbacks of Keynesianism. Austrians, free market, neoclassic, whatever you want to call it, and some anal retentive assholes in the comments like, there's a difference. Okay. Just saying Austrians. It shouldn't even be called Austrians. It should be called free people. It's not the government's right to intervene. It's not the government's domain to come and try and do good. The government should get the fuck out of the way and let people succeed or fail. All right. So Austrians are not necessarily. It's a very hands-off thing. I mean, it's kind of funny. I was sitting there thinking about it. It really is like this. It's trying to figure out women. The smartest people know you can't. That's what the Austrians like. Fuck if I know, dude. Just that's how they are, and here's how we're going to interact. That's what's happened. Keynesians, they actually think they can figure out women. They actually think they can figure out this complex, constantly evolving, changing creature, and like, oh well, there's some rules, and we have these models. You see, I mean, it's almost, if not identical to, trying to model global warming, and all these models, like, they fail because there's so many variables, and so many. It's not a finite, controllable, mathematical, scientific, fits perfectly into our computer algorithm world. They literally try to predict human behavior. So it's like trying to predict global warming. It's like trying to predict women. You might as well try and predict the economies. At least the Austrians are smart enough to say, fuck if we know, dude, just let them do what they want, because they have the right to succeed and fail. So that is the key philosophical difference between Keynesians and Austrians, is the Keynesians think that they can intervene because they think they can do better, and they can't do better, where the Austrians are like, dude, it's not your right to intervene. So that's basically the one thing that universally differentiates Austrians from Keynesians, and that is the Keynesians think they can do better, and they have the right to do better, and they have the right to go in, and with the force of government, with the force of law, tell you what you can and cannot do, provides you incentives, disincentives, and things like that. Austrians like, fuck you, we don't care. Do whatever happens to you, but it's up to you, and you got to figure it out. It's not our right to intervene. So that's it. Now, from this begets or flows some key economic policy differences, and I've come up with 5 of them, and they're kind of interrelated. But I'm just going to go through these 5, so you can kind of know. Here's where that philosophical difference comes in. Probably the biggest one is monetary policy. It is shocking to me. I don't care how complicated central banking is made. I don't care how complicated the Federal Reserve is. I don't care how complicated politicians and economists and Federal Reserve economists and federal bankers try to make it. Keynesians, in effect, not John Maynard Keynes, he'd be against this, but what Keynesians are doing right now, they really don't believe in inflation. I'm convinced of that. They actually believe in monetary policy. Now, what is monetary policy? Let me explain this for those of you who aren't economists. There are those 2 policies, those 2 tools, government, Keynesians, believe they can use to help grow the economy. One is fiscal policy. That's what the government spends in taxes. So to grow the economy, you would lower taxes and you would increase spending. Okay, that's like your, what was it, cash for clunkers, or our shovel-ready projects, or the CCC, Civilian Conservation Corps, if you remember the Public Works Administration back in FDR days. That's what we're going to get the economy growing. It didn't work. We took World War II. But that's fiscal policy. We lower taxes, we increase spending, and we boost the economy. Once again, the government has the right to intervene and try and boost the economy. Monetary policy is the policy on our money, monetary. And it basically boils down to 3 things. There's your reserve requirement ratio. We won't get into that. There's money, the supply of money, and then there's the interest rate for the federal funds rate. And that's what the central bank, when they talk about the interest rate, that's what they're talking about. Keynesians actually believe that tinkering with the money supply can increase economic growth. And this is so stupid. This is so dumb. They tried it in Zimbabwe. They tried it in Venezuela. They're trying it. They've tried it a million times over. The Roman Empire tried it. It never works. But they're right this time. Let's see, we have some very complicated in the velocity and the reason we are printing off money. That's what quantitative easing is. Like I said, I don't care how complicated or complex central bankers make it sound. All that's happening right now to finance our government deficits and our debt is we print off money. The Federal Reserve lends money to the federal government. They're two separate entities. Again, I don't want to get too boring and detailed into this. And then the Federal Reserve prints off trillions, literally trillions of US dollars. Now, the reason this works is because we have a low velocity of money. There's low business investment. We also have the world's reserve currency. So all this extra money is sopped up in the global economy. That's why you don't really see it translate into inflation. But don't worry, a dollar printed is inflation. So where these Keynesians actually believe in this kind of magic, this kind of voodoo, like we can just increase the money supply and that will get people working again. Austrians actually believe in inflation. They know inflation. They say, look, it's production. You got to produce goods and services. That's why it's called the wealth of nations, not the money of nations. If it was the money of nations, we could all just print off a shit ton of money and then we'd all be rich because then we could buy nothing because there'd be nothing to buy with it. So Austrians really, they are aware of monetary policy. They believe monetary policy does have an effect, but it's only negative. If your monetary policy is to keep up with inflation or to keep up with the production of goods and services, to have a 0% inflation rate, that's good. Okay, but that's about it. You just keep a stable currency. Aside from that, Austrians just know, look, you're just going to print off more money because it's too tempting for the interventionist type pro-government Keynesians to just print off money and pay for all these wonderful things and single mothers and free education. And they know that money will then flood into different types of markets and cause inflation other places. But in any case, so that's probably the one key difference. The Austrians do not really believe that there should be a central bank. We don't believe that our currency should be inflated away. They typically will advocate some kind of commodity currency like gold or silver-backed, gold-backed type of currency. But the Keynesians, they really do believe that intervening through printing off money, lowering interest rates, all that type of manipulation helps grow the economy. Now, have you guys noticed the economy growing? I mean, the perfect example of Keynesianism is Japan. Look at Japan. Oh my gosh. 2 decades now of printing off money, tons of debt, and their economic growth is a paltry, 1.2%. So that would probably be the key difference. Another thing is market failure. This is another key philosophical difference, and that'd be the concept of market failure. Austrians don't believe in market failure. They just believe in the market correcting. And when you say, well, what's market failure? Market failure is this concept that I find very cute and wrong, is Keynesians, communists, leftist socialists, interventionists, controllers, tyrants, they say the market has failed. The market is not producing at its optimal level, and we need to go in and fix that. And for example, the housing bubble, perfect example. The market failed. We had a big bubble in housing. We had a big bubble in the dot-coms. The market failed to accurately price this, and then after the stock market crashed, we had recessions. And so in both the case of the dot-com bubble bursting with George Bush and in the case of the housing bubble bursting with Barack Obama, they did huge expansionary policies, both in terms of fiscal and monetary policy. We lowered taxes. Well, okay, Obama didn't lower taxes, but he definitely increased spending. Bush lowered taxes, also increased spending. It's not coincidence that both those presidents, until Obama took over, George Bush was the biggest spender since LBJ, based on GDP and percentages of. The larger point, though, is they thought that government, they believed, there's a market failure. We got to come in and bail out this. We have to have TARP. We have cash for clunkers. We got to do this. We got to do that. Whereas Austrians are like, no, that's the natural ebb and flow of the economy. An Austrian, I know, now here's something where you leftists, I think we might agree, you OWS types. Austrians would have let the banks fucking fail. They would have let those motherfuckers gone down to hell. But not Keynesians. Oh no. And remember when I say Keynesians, you might want to think, Republican, Democrat. No, there are tons of Republican Keynesians. I mean, George Bush Jr., Daddy's got a lot of money. He's a huge Keynesian. The hugest one since LBJ until Barack Obama took over. So this belief that the economy needs some kind of help or something like that there is a way it can fail. Austrians say, yeah, it can fail, and it's supposed to. We're supposed to wipe out the bankers. These bankers should have been unemployed motherfucking pieces of shit like the scumbags they were. But no, we're going to bail them out with TARP, Barack Obama money, whatever else. So the Keynesians, they really believe in this concept of market fit. It's like how bad. Austrians are very like, yeah, it would be horrible. It'd be a horrible recession, but it'd be sharp, it'd be painful, it'd be done and over with. What the Keynesians like to do is they like to tax and move money around to amortize and to spread out the pain over the course of 7-8 years. I mean, have you noticed how the economy didn't come booming back? I mean, I don't know how many of you are old enough to remember Reagan when he took over from Carter and how the economy came roaring back after the malaise of the 70s, even though it was classical Keynesian economics again. But that kind of boom doesn't happen anymore because we do you want to jump in the water or do you want to ooch your way into it? Do you want to slightly pull off the band-aid or do you want to rip it right off? So the Austrians are perfectly fine with having crushing recessions because that's the way that asset prices drop, things become more profitable. What else? Things become, you can start businesses again because prices drop. Everyone's all, oh my God, housing prices are going down. Oh my God, the stock market's going down. That's good if you're a millennial or a Gen Xer and you don't have an investment in a house that's good. Decreasing prices are good. Keynesians are not for decreasing prices. They freak out if things go down in value. So it's, but in any case, the main philosophical difference is Austrians are okay with a collapsing economy because that's the free market. That's what's going to happen. Let it happen. Let prices find themselves down to their bottom, and then the real entrepreneurs, the real successful people, the real intelligent people will take over from these bankster scum over at Goldman Sachs who can't fucking make money without me having to bail them out. They'll actually run a better, more efficient business. No, but we bail them out. We have expansionary fiscal monetary policy. And so now we have very slow rate growth now. Another thing is credit-driven bubbles. And you say, what's a credit-driven bubble? Just bubbles. Housing bubble, education bubble. Take a look at, let's look at the housing bubble. What drove it? Well, it was credit, debt, loans. And this is like very simple. You push down on one side of the balloon, the other side of the balloon expands. You throw a ton of money into a market, prices are going to go up. So when we lent trillions of dollars at very low interest rates, in part caused by the Federal Reserve, then that money inflates prices. Doesn't mean the value of the house goes up. Doesn't mean that your .com money stock is worth that. But prices go up. So you've seen this in the .com mania. That was more equity driven, where people were throwing trillions of dollars of equity, but they were lending trillions of dollars of money to .coms that were never going to make it anyway. We certainly saw this in the housing bubble, where we were lending trillions of dollars to people who just couldn't pay it back. And more recently today, this one I'm trying to beat the hell into the heads of millennials, but millennials are stupid. And there's the education bubble. Why is tuition so high? Oh, we need more government money. Well, geez, idiot kids, I don't know why tuition is so high. Maybe because the government lends trillions of dollars a year into that education market. And that's why prices, because then it's like, oh, look, you got financing? What if there was no loans? What if you were not able to get a loan for students? There was no such thing as a student loan. You'd have to pay cash. What do you think would happen to tuition prices? Well, obviously they come down a lot because not everybody can afford it. Say, what? $100 of credit? Fuck you. I ain't got time for your fucking lesbian poetry, Guatemalan sculpture, French 18th century architecture studies. So that is one of the key differences in beliefs. And I know a lot of you kids here is like, well, we believe in bubbles. Yeah, but maybe you do, but your policies don't. You guys print off so much money, you lower interest rates, that money's going to go somewhere. So whereas I believe Austrians are very acutely aware of credit-driven bubbles, the Keynesians are not. The Keynesians are kind of like, well, we're just trying to help out the economy. They never think about the second or tertiary effects of just printing off a lot of money and having artificially low interest rates. So, and we see this now happening even in the stock market. Interest rates are so low, corporations are borrowing. Now it's above $1 trillion. They've borrowed over $1 trillion cumulatively to go and buy back all their stocks. So this has driven stock prices up relative to their earnings, making your average stock, you're only going to get about a 2% rate of return per year in dividends, which is the only thing that gives a stock value is dividends. Housing is also driven up. This is more specifically in Australia, but Melbourne, it's kind of interesting. This 2% or lower, you're not going to find a real rate of return above 2%. Rents to housing prices, your rate of return you could expect, your cap rate, is like 2% over in Melbourne. In the United States, certain housing markets are back there again, where your rent just doesn't validate or legitimize the prices we're paying. Well, and then everybody's all excited about high stock prices and high housing prices. Really? You young millennial cunts, you idiots, you morons who vote for Barack Obama and suck his dick and think government is the savior of everything, do you like paying more on housing? Do you like paying more on rent? Are you excited that you can't afford stocks to retire? Because you voted this partly in. I know you didn't consciously do it, but you did it. You voted this in. So that's another thing, is I really don't believe Keynesians believe in credit-driven bubbles, because they're blissfully, ignorantly unaware of it. It's amazing how they just cannot make the connection. Just put off more government money. Let's just lend the lower interest rates. Oh no, there's no bubbles. Oh, so what if average house is $400,000? That's just the way it's good. It's good that prices are high. Okay, if asset prices are that high, then it becomes very hard to run a profitable business, because you just can't afford it. There's no meat left on the bone, as they say. In that, what's that show? I like it, Frank. American Pickers. There's no meat left on the bone for me. Yeah, there's no meat left on the bone for you younger people, because you voted in socialism, then you like the government. So that's another thing. Lower prices is also a key defining thing, since Keynesians are all worried about voodoo, genuine voodoo, like not trickle down, but they really believe in emotion, and if prices go down, what will happen to consumer confidence? So they always want stock prices to go up, housing prices to go up. That'll boost consumer confidence, and then people will just spend more. Fuck production. They don't give a shit about production. That maybe would be another thing. Keynesians are about production. Austrians are about production. Keynesians are all about just demand. Just like, well, if we just have more money, we could spend. In other words, Keynesians are like, your wife. They want to piss away money and blow money away. And Austrians are like the husband. Whoa, how are we going to pay for this? That's another cute little, very short. I'm pissing off all the real kids. They're all, yeah, it's not really like that. I know. This is for average people who don't need your mind-numbing, boring bullshit and the eccentricities and differences. But Austrians are okay with deflation. Deflation is good. And if you think about it, with the advances in technology, we should have deflation, because prices dropping are good. That's good. That means more purchasing power for you. This is one of the weirdest things I've never understood about Keynesians. They're all like, oh my God, prices are going down. Yeah, so what? Now, what the Keynesians will say is this thing called the deflationary spiral. Oh my gosh, we can't, and this has never happened in the history of the fucking world. It's just like this voodoo scary, ooh, look out, deflationary spiral, oh my God, oh no, look out, it might happen someday. So what a deflationary spiral is, prices go down, and you're like, let's say prices go down 5% a year. And you're like, oh shit, dude. I need a car right now. I need some toilet paper right now. But if I just wipe my ass with my hand and not buy toilet paper today, I can get 5% more tomorrow because prices are going down. So I'm not going to buy toilet paper. I'm not going to buy that car I need to get to work. I'm not going to buy that gas. I'm going to wait a year and just wipe my ass with my hand, because I'll save 5% on toilet paper. So that's literally the thing. So the Keynesians, this deflationary spiral thing, they're worried about the prospect of lower prices putting off demand. And what happens, this spiral, is where you're like, well, if I don't buy now, prices will be cheaper in the future, so I have more purchasing power. So you postpone your purchases. Well, that, in fact, triggers lower prices and accelerates the decrease of the pricing. So since nobody's buying because they want to save that 5% on toilet paper, and we're going to wipe our asses with our hands, that lack of demand drops prices even further. Now you're going to save 10% on toilet paper. Oh, and then now you're like, well, wait a minute. Maybe I'll go 2 years wiping my ass with my hand, and I'll save 10%, and that causes 20. Well, this doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen. I'm sure in some instances it happens, but people need toilet paper. They need a car. They need certain things. So you never really see this threat of a deflationary spiral ever taking place. And on top of it, yes, people like lower prices. That's the whole point of an economy, or a technology rather, in an economy, is to make things cheaper. And the Keynesians are all freaked out because they're more focused on asset prices and consumer confidence. Like, oh my God, housing prices are going down. So what? Housing prices are going down. That means it's cheaper. I would also say there's a heavy bias in the Keynesians because they're a bunch of baby boomers and they're all invested in housing and stocks, all these inflated asset prices. So they have a personal vested psychological interest in this stuff. Austrians, who are more literalists and empiricists, I would like to say they're younger, but the millennials are too stupid. They're Me Tooism Keynesians. They're like, yeah, Social Security, let's just rape us some more for the old people who didn't work as hard. So I don't give them the intellectual credit to be aware of this. But the Austrians would kind of be more of a younger, pro-younger, like, yes, the younger entrepreneurial up-and-coming class, you need cheaper goods. You need cheaper asset prices. So the Austrians are all for cheap shit. I mean, would you like to buy a house for $50,000, brand new house for $50,000? Well, that may have been possible back in the 40s and the 50s. Those evil racist whitey, oh my God, growth of 5%, unemployment of 4%. We wouldn't want that. But it's kind of cute how brainwashed and successful. I would say the Keynesian school of economic thought, but politicians and media and the left have gotten everybody convinced that you need to have high prices, that things being costly is good. So that's another very cute but key difference is like, I mean, you just got to think about it. Well, yeah, I'd like lower prices. And then for someone to say, oh, no, that's bad because, well, that would affect consumer confidence and we need to increase aggregate demand. You're like, what? What voodoo fucking bullshit are you talking about? So that's the Keynesians. And then there's this, and I don't know how else to say this, but the Keynesians really do believe in magic. They really believe that you could substitute money for work, that we just move money around here or there, or we print off more money, or we lower the interest rate. They think money is the substitute for work and production. It isn't. Austrians, I mean, if you want to be a monetarist, meaning you believe in monetary policy, yeah, okay, you can believe that the interest rates and this and that would have an effect. Austrians say, yeah, it'd have an effect, but only negative, because you're mispricing the cost of money, you're mispricing interest rates, you're fucking with our currency. Stop fucking with our currency. But Keynesians actually believe, like, well, we'll give money over here, that'll increase aggregate demand. It's like, no, you can print off all the money you want in the world. That doesn't increase the amount of stuff. That doesn't increase the actual amount of wealth a country can produce. So Keynesians, not John Maynard Keynes, but Keynesians, they do believe in production. They know there's a supply side to the economy as well as a demand side. But the amount of faith, the amount of blind faith they put into the demand side of economics makes Christians look sane and rational, makes Muslims look sane and rational, makes religious people look sane and rational. They never focus on the production. This is why you're not going to see a Keynesian president, Republican or Democrat, eliminate corporate taxes. You want to talk about something that would really be a classical difference between Keynesians and Austrians. Austrians would be, let's get rid of corporate taxes. Why do we have corporate taxes? This is the dumbest thing ever. We want employment, we want production, we want jobs. Why are we taxing corporations at a stated rate of 40%, state and federal? And, I mean, just think about that. If I said, 40% of your money is going to come to me if you live in my country, what corporation wants to live here? What corporation? And you guys are all like, the evil corporations are going overseas. Well, maybe if you stop beating them like a wife, maybe they'd come here. Maybe they'd invest. But every time, Wilma, Wilma's going to leave Fred pretty soon. But yeah, the Keynesians, they really do think that we can just magically move money around or print off money in here or there, and this is going to result in more production or economic growth. And it's not. It really isn't. Because it hasn't. I mean, we can look at it. Do we want to look at Japan for the past 20 years, or do we want to look at the United States ever since we started doing the TARP and the bailouts and Barack Obama and George Bush's expansionary fiscal and monetary policies? I mean, really, where has quantitative easing gotten you? Where has all this TARP money, all these Federal Reserve purchases of government debt gotten you? Where has it gotten you? It hasn't done anything. Oh, it may have kept an artificial stability But there's no booming economy. There's no jobs. This is why all you millennial kids, you got your student loans and your student debt, and you ain't got no jobs because there's no economic growth. There's no demand for it. But hey, you know what? We're gonna have quantitative easing 5, and see, that'll get you kids jobs working right away. See, you just wait. Janet Yellen, she has a doctorate in economics. So that's it. There's no actual Keynesians really do believe in this magic move the pot of money around, and that's somehow going to get the economy growing. It's like, no. Profit, personal interest, property rights. Like, if I make $100, you're not going to tax 40% of it. And if you include dividends, it's actually more a dividend tax, capital gains tax and all. It's more around like 50% of your money. If you invest in a corporation, you only get half of it. But I know you guys don't want to be bothered with numbers and statistics and data and facts. You want to, yep, it's the evil corporation. Yep, it's them. Yeah. No, don't ask about, what was it? Medtronic going overseas. Don't ask about that. Don't worry about it. No. Don't ask about Halliburton because they're evil corporations. We hate them, but we want jobs. Fucking idiots. Anyway, so those are the kind of the key differences between Keynesianism and Austrian economic thought. But it really does boil down to, like, do they believe they have a right to intervene? Austrians are like, no, we're not gonna intervene. We're not gonna try and figure out women. Keynesians are so arrogant and egotistical, and this is why you shouldn't have degrees in economics. It's a joke to have economics degrees. They've made an entire industry about trying to predict the economy, and they've failed. They have just failed. 50, 60 years of failure. Well, heck, Keynes was even around before that. 70 years of failure. Economics is not something that you control. You can only harm it, as evidenced by the Soviet Union and North Korea. You can only study it and obey it. That's really the key difference. Austrians say, okay, here's the economy. We're not going to fuck with it. We're just going to accept it for what it is. And we're going to build policy based around letting free people do free things and owning the vast majority of the fruits of their labor. Keynesians think they can fuck with this formula. They think they can optimize it and improve it. And if you haven't noticed, our economic growth rate is half of what it used to be. And that is because they're going to fix it and make it better. And they don't. They just fuck up the works. That's all they do. So anyway, I hope that explained things. And you learned a little bit about Keynesian and Austrian economics. And if you want to go and visit my site, assholeconsulting.com, you have any questions, and money. I charge for this. I charge a lot of money for this. I even woke up, well, I didn't wake up early for it, but I did wake up. Go to assholeconsulting.com. I'll answer your questions before fee and price. You can visit my website, captaincapitalism.blogspot.com. I have a podcast. You can search The Clary Podcast. That's on SoundCloud. What else do I do? Oh, yeah, I got books. You can read books. Some on audio if you don't like reading books. You can go to Amazon, search my name, Aaron Clary. I have books Worthless, The Young Person's Indispensable Guide to Choosing the Right Major. Bachelor Economics, that's a good one. Black Man's Guide Out of Poverty, that's for our black brothers out there who, if you're sick and tired of believing kind of this Keynesian leftist bullshit and you actually want to improve your life, that book's for you. And some other crap that I've written and other things. So anyway, that's all we got. We'll catch up with you kids later. Toodles.